Yo, my name is Wackaflcka, and today we're going to be looking at some drama that's been happening on Twitter. I don't really pay attention to Twitter, I'm going to be honest. I saw this through Red Arrow stream. Some cringe Rengar main called Edgy came into the stream and linked Ellis's clip here, or what he said in the chat, and that made me curious. And then someone DM'd me on Discord about this as well. And there's two things we're going to talk about here. It's the one thing if he's scripting or not, and the second part we're going to talk about is the part where Ellis said here, no one's been able to control over free attack speed without settings clicking. And we're going to bring some light on both of these things here. And at the very end, I feel very confident in both my verdicts here. So if anyone disagrees, then you would have to convince me very hard, because as I said, I feel like this is what makes most sense. And it's very hard to believe anything else. First off, this guy called the Scripter. He's a challenger, ARAM player, rank 1 arena. I have no idea what server he's on. I have no idea who he is. And just to bring this short, is he scripting? I don't think so. And LS is partially right here in the fact that you can't actually attack with more than 3 attack speed per second. However, if you're interested in knowing more, we're going to be looking at these things now. And the first thing we're going to look at here is if he's scripting or not. And the reason why I can say so lightly that he's not scripting is because when you look at him, when he's playing here, when you're scripting, in general, you don't run into people like this, right? And what he's doing is something I like to call attack spamming. He can be using A-click, right-click, it doesn't really matter, but generally speaking, what Alice said is what I like to call it. It's attack spamming, and it takes no skill. And the reason why he's getting called the scripter here is because of a phenomenon that happens in ARAM and probably Arena as well, is that people don't actually play high-ranked like solo queue, and they don't actually play versus good players or AD carries in like a proper environment. And taking Arena as an example, there are no minions here, nothing, so like you can ideally just put your mouse behind you, spam ZX, and you'll do the perfect kite. Anything above 3 attack speed doesn't really matter, you can just spam the buttons as hard as you want, and there'll be no punishment at all, almost. And the only thing I'll say here, the only impressive part is that he predicted the Annie ultimate. But again, it's kind of obvious because the second she walks in, you see she walks in pro bolt. So like at this point here, it's a clue that she's going to tib us. And you see that flash. So that's good, props to him for that. But everything else is just stupid. If he's scripting, it's some Walmart script that... yeah, I don't know. It's worse than WhatBot. Like most scripts are very unsophisticated and they just spam like... or bots don't really target champions and they just click on the ground and spam ZX, as you see in this clip here. And then looking at the second one he does, where he said clip 1. And again, the only impressive part here is the fact that he flashes this Malphite ultimate. But again, if you have reactions, you can easily react to Malphite ultimate. Just like I can turn every single Cassio ult that happens to me, unless I just get completely caught off guard, or they're like really low elo and they never do it, and then suddenly they randomly do it when I'm not ready. It's like these things there aren't really hard if you have decent awareness, and there's no reason for you to get flashed or not be able to flash the Malphite. Because in a normal League of Legends game, when you have champions like Malphite, you have to have in your mind, I'm gonna flash the Malphite ultimate. The second you see the animation, you flash. Like, it's just automatic. It doesn't take a lot of skill because you're prepared. You know you're playing against Malphite, you know he has flash, and there's nothing else you have to flash. You don't have to pay attention to 5 champions here, it's only 2. So like in 2v2 Arena, this isn't really hard. And then the second thing, again, you can see plenty of misplays here from him just ZX spamming. Right, you see X set. And then here you'll see he walks backward, cancel auto attacks, and like it's just very low TR kiting. No offense to him, but it's very bad. A silver player, if I tell him what to do, he can do this as well. Obviously, certain things are going to differentiate between a good player and silver player, but at the end of the day, this doesn't take a lot of skill. So is he scripting? Not at all. Did he predict some ults and play well? Yeah, sure. But like these things aren't hard, and people call it script, and it's so funny because this is something you expect from season 7 of Rat RL. Like he would do this then and get called a scripter, but we are now in like season 13, 14, 12. I have no fucking idea. It's like this isn't hard anymore. This isn't impressive. It's like Insect Lee Sin in season 1. So that is part 1 done. It's nothing impressive. I don't see why people are calling it scripter. It's just errand people and like these people that are just complete normies that just see someone walking or attacking like scripter. But like he is not scripting unless he's using the worst script in the world. And even then, a silver player could perform or do this as well if they know how to move the computer mouse and they can press ZX with no thought as to where they're putting it, as you can see here. But again, he's kiting with high attack speed, even though there he was under 2 point whatever or 3. And then the second part we're going to get into is the LS take, where he said that you have not been able to control over free attack speed without ZX clicking. And this is true for most cases, and I will show that now. But you also have to remember what people are saying here is that they're completely delusional. I saw Nidhogg say that he used to kite with, or practice kiting with over 3 attack speed per second, but they don't understand what LS means. Something you have to remember is that I think he has Asperger's or autism. There's nothing wrong with that, but everything he says is most of the time going to be interpreted as being literate. Like, he's not going to be saying anything that has like hidden meanings behind it. When he says no one's been able to control over 3 attack speed per second, that literally means that no one's been able to do that with right click only, not using a click or left mouse click, right click move. He's talking about only using your right click button. So we're gonna get into that now, and I'll show you guys so you understand what I mean. Okay, so if you are going to right click only, meaning only right click the same button that you move with, right, that means right click off, on, off, on, off, on. When you have 3 attack speed, what you then need to do, you have to multiply the 3 by 2, which equals 6. So you have to have 6 actions per second, equaling roughly around 370 APM, 370 actions per minute. So in every second, you have to click 6 times on the target, off the target, like this. And you can see at the moment, because I'm at 250, it's not actually that high. So you can see as sometimes now I leave full tempo and I'm at 3.26. So then you can actually see that it doesn't stutter, but when I have less than that, you'll see that there's small stutters here, which means that I'm clicking faster than 2.5 because my champion stutters. But when you have higher than 3, then you're not going to see the stutter, which is why the ZX spam becomes so OP, because at this point, I'm not sure if I have a bound even, but you'll just do like this. But if you see even now, I'm spamming it too hard, right? But then when you're talking about 4, you can literally just do this and you'll do perfect auto attacks every single time. But then, you see, I mean, even now I'm clicking a bit too fast for this attack speed. Because every time the champion stutters or cancels, that means that I'm clicking too fast. But then if I were to do it with only right click, it would become harder. I would still say that 3 is fine. It's definitely possible, but when you're talking 4, or higher, or 3.5 or something, then it definitely doesn't become possible. And one of the other reasons is because when you're kiting, you're then moving your mouse away and then onto them again. So that's increasing the distance you have to move your mouse while also having to maintain that 6 per second. And then again, even though you see lots of auto attacks, you might not actually be utilizing the full auto attack. Right, because you might stop auto attacking, but it doesn't really look like it because you're attacking so fast anyway. But even then, you may be missing out on 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 attacks per second, or you know. And for those interested, if you want to do the ZX thing, all you have to do is go into play movement and move click. You have to put this to set and then this to X, I think. Yeah, so then it becomes like this. So I press set to move, and then you can literally just hold your mouse still. And you just have to cycle these. Set X, set X, set X, set X. And the higher attack speed you have, the easier this becomes, because now you can literally hear my mouse. I'm just spamming, right? And it doesn't take a lot of skill as long as you have it in the general direction. So yeah. Although LS is partially right, because it becomes so hard and unoptimal to actually just right click constantly, because you run the risk of missing your clicks as well. So like now I'm doing it, right? But even now, I'm stuttering. So, even though 3 is likely, when you're chasing someone, you can probably kite or move with 3.5. But when you get to the part where you're moving away, and you have to move your mouse and you have to dodge skill shots, etc., then it's going to become a lot harder. And again, in a normal League of Legends game, where you have minions and other things as well as other champions, and you want to focus on someone else, then it becomes even more grief. But in something like Arena, that doesn't really matter. So again, the ZX spam is just so much more broken there, because there's literally no punishment for it. Whereas in a normal League of Legends game, there's going to be a lot more punishing. So yeah, the reason why I agree with LS is because, as I said, you have to click 6 times per second while also moving your mouse. So it becomes very, very hard and also very punishing if you do the mistake of clicking as to do here, right? Which is why even pro players will choose to do the A click or right click or something. Because as long as you're close to that target with the mouse click, when you have this enabled here, attack move on cursor, you're still going to attack that champion. So it just, way better, and you see most pro players I watch, even the Korean ones, they do this, because there's literally no point in doing this unless you're chasing them, because as I've said in another video, then it becomes a lot easier because you have to have them, you can have the mouse a lot closer to them. But yeah, that is it. Hope that clarifies everything. Again, he's not scripting, and again, kiting with higher than 3 attack speed, when you're kiting and not chasing, it's also very difficult, and I do agree that it would be very hard to do that in a normal League of Legends game. Whereas in Arena or something, it might be more possible simply because of how different it is. It's more zoomed in, champions are bigger, etc, etc, etc. So yeah, people that say they permanently kite with like 4 attack speed or something, yeah, you're doing it with ZX or A spam or something, like it's not really that impressive. Again, the solo player could do it. But it's fun, it's good, it's not bad. So I mean, again, if you want to do it, then go for it. But again, I would still recommend practicing right clicking, or just at least getting good movement, because as you could see, he was very sporadic in his movement. With the guy that got called the script, he was just running through them, obviously having fun. But yeah, at the end of the day, not very impressive, clearly not scripting, and I hope this clarified some things. And again, if you have 4 attack speed, that means you have to click 8 times per second with right click, so that definitely does become very hard. Because again, if you just spam your right click button like this, you're closing into something like 370 APM, and 370 APM roughly equates to 3 seconds. And that is almost impossible to do when you get to a higher point, because you do need to spread that on 2 buttons, because only doing it on 1 button is hard, but reaching 370 APM with 2 buttons is a lot easier than with 1. So again, just right clicking and getting 370 APM as opposed to using 2 buttons and reaching 370 APM is going to be a lot easier. So yeah, this clarifies everything, I hope, and hope you guys continue to have a good morning, evening, night, whichever one fits, shit like that. This has been Wackaflcka, and yeah, take care, peace.